Let's bring in Jonathan Mayo, MLB.com. And the Phillies draft in the books. The minor league system is restocked again. Jonathan, how are you, pal?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
We're good, and we know the Phillies struggling along this season. But, hey, part of the struggle is, okay, they got some stuff in the farm system. They had the number 1 pick last year, the number 8 pick this year. Tell us a little bit about Adam Hazley.
Yeah, I'm a big Adam Hazley fan. He is kind of an interesting guy because coming into the spring, he was not really considered, a high-end pick. Wasn't even necessarily a first-round pick, and then he just went off and pretty much start to finish for a very good University of Virginia program. He hit, and he hit for average and power. I think the power was the thing that really moved him up. He hit over 400 all year. The power is particularly surprising given the fact the University of Virginia's home stadium is a tough place to hit the ball out. A lot of scouts came in to see Pavin Smith, his teammate who went right above half. And I enjoyed watching him play. He's a good athlete who has a chance to stay up the middle and center field. He was their Saturday starter. He's not going to pitch, obviously, at the next level. It just shows you a little bit about his athleticism and his skill set.
When you look at the Phillies draft overall, we know the baseball draft's a lot harder, but any names or some things that stick out? Because we know sometimes signability makes guys drop, and that makes some intriguing picks later on in some rounds.
Yeah, and they didn't do a ton of that until, what has become an interesting trend is that sometimes guys don't go in the first 2 days through 10 rounds. If the high school guy is going on to school. But if one of those guys goes in the 11th round, then there's a chance that they'll end up signing. And the Phillies, Jake Holmes, in the 11th round, he's a high school shortstop from Arizona, and he's got a ton of tools. He's a plus athlete. He's big and strong, and they're going to sign him. And that's going to happen pretty soon. So that was kind of a nice get for them. A little bit later, they'll have to go. Pick value past 10th round, it's set at $125,000. To go above that, it counts to a overall draft pool. So they're going to spend a little extra to sign him. I don't know what the bonus is yet, but they are going to be able to bring him into the fold, and it gives them an exciting middle player. To start at the bottom levels of their system.
Jonathan Mayo, MLB.com, MLB Pipeline, looking at the minor leagues in the Phillies organization. They took a lot of college players this year. It seemed like the 5 out of 6 of the first 6 rounds were college players. When a team goes that route, is that an indication of something like they want these guys to kind of move through a little faster?
I mean, not necessarily. Sometimes it's just what the draft gives to you. When you pick, and where they picked in the first round, most of the best players, were behind them. But he was not a guy that everyone universally loves.
We got a bad phone connection with Jonathan Mayo, and he's.
You're right though on that. It's 6-8, I think. Virginia, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, Cal State Fullerton, Houston, Florida, and Lincoln Land Community College. So, I mean, that's a lot of college picks.
Lincoln Land Community College.
Good old Lincoln Land Community College. How do you not know that school?
Let's finish up with Jonathan Mayo here. I want to wrap up, Jonathan, and kind of get your take on an overview of the Phillies organization, their minor league system, because we've heard a lot about these guys. They've made a lot of trades that have restocked the system, yet it doesn't seem that anybody or a couple of guys are really jumping out. Is this organization a little bit behind where they should be at this point of their rebuild?
I mean, some of the guys that they've brought in, via trades and stuff, haven't necessarily become huge performers yet. But I think there's time yet. Sure, there's been some disappointment, but one of the reasons why you want to try to add quantity and quality is that not everybody's going to make it. So I think there's still a lot of talent. They've got some guys who are really young at in the upper levels. I get questions all the time about J.P. Crawford, and I think he's going to be just fine. He's 22 and he's in AAA, and I think he's going to be just fine. So sometimes patience is needed. I know Phillies fans are eager for them to turn it around, but when you do a full rebuild, it doesn't always work.
All right, Jonathan Mayo, MLB.com. A quick look at the Phillies organization. They get a win last night. Jonathan, we appreciate the time, pal.
Thanks for having me.